So the file types for end of year one all use replacement processing, where any record in the CalPADS ODS with the same operational keys are replaced on upload. The one exception for this rule is the staff demographics file, which uses the more flexible effective date processing method. All right, so let's talk about the files that we submit in end of year one. The student's enrollment or SENR records must be updated in end of year one and should be updated prior to uploading your work-based learning records. CalPADS will pull data on the state seal of biliteracy, the Golden State Seal, and AG completion from SENR records. The SDEM file is used to submit demographic data about credentialed staff members who were actively employed at any time during the current academic year. An update of the SDEM file is typically submitted to include those teachers of record who were not active during the Fall 2 reporting period. Next, the course section completion or CRSC file is used to submit course completion data, including state course codes and course attributes for all departmentalized courses that students completed during the academic year. The student course section completion file format is used to submit student course section data, including credits, grades, Carnegie units, career technical education, and AG requirements for departmentalized course sections that students complete during the academic year and for which they receive a grade. The student career technical education or SCTE file is used to submit career technical education information about a student. Specifically, students are identified as CTE pathway completers if they completed a CTE pathway within the current academic year. The high quality CTE indicator is used to designate high quality CTE courses only. And these courses are taught by staff that are credentialed to teach career technical education. And then finally, the work-based learning or WBLR file is used to submit work-based learning data that will provide additional opportunities for students to demonstrate their preparedness for college and career through the college and career indicator on the California School dashboard. And it is important for an early start and successful certification, successful completion of end of year one, that you reach out and get the staff involved in the submission working as early as possible with you. And the staff involved in the end of year one submission are school site staff, program staff, CTE staff, site administrators, and student system support staff. Before I leave this slide, we do have about 5 reminders for you. And the first one is highlighted in yellow with that little notes box at the bottom here. We submit course section enrollment data in Fall 2, and we submit course section completion data in end of year 1. But the course section completion that we submit in end of year 1 is not compared to the course section enrollment that we submit in Fall 2. So you can submit course section completion data for courses that do not have corresponding course section enrollments in Fall 2. The second reminder, course completion is only required for departmentalized classes in grades 9 through 12, and it is optional for grades 7 through 8. The third reminder, CTE completers are determined using the SCTE file. Next, SEIDs or seeds that are submitted in course section completion records are checked to make sure that a corresponding staff demographic or SDEM record exists in CalPADS unless you're using a generic seed of all 9s. The generic seed of all 9s is again used for teachers who are not employed at your LEA and are only used in course section and student course section files. But whenever possible, if you are able to track down the seeds and demographic information for those teachers, it would be helpful to include the actual seed of the teacher rather than the seed of all 9s. And then the final reminder before we leave this slide, do not submit the staff assignment file in end of year. Staff assignment data is not required in end of year, and submitting a file may wipe out previously submitted data. So do not submit the staff assignment file in end of year. We only submit the staff assignment file again in Fall 2. Okay, there is a recommended sequence to the files that you submit to CalPADS in end of year 1, and it's based on the relationships between the records. The staff demographics, course section completion, student course section completion, student career technical education, and work-based learning files are all required for end of year one. In end of year one, you want to ensure that the SENR and the STEM records, so these labeled with a 1 here at the top of the slide, you'll want to ensure that the SENR or student enrollment and STEM or staff demographic records are up to date in CalPads before submitting any of the other file types. SENR records will need to be updated to reflect student data at the end of the school year. STEM records will need to be updated so that all teachers instructing students are reported during the academic year. If you make it a practice to keep STEM records at your LEA current in CalPads on an ongoing basis, this will be a quick step. Once the staff demographic or STEM file submission is complete, the course section completion or CRSC file should be submitted and posted. The SEID from the staff demographic file will tie the teacher to the course section. After courses have been posted in CalPads, the student course section completion or SCSC file can be submitted and posted. The SCSE records are tied to individual courses via a shared course section ID. And so the course section ID will tie the student course section completion to the course itself. And then finally, after the student course section completion file has been submitted, we will go on to submit the student career technical education file. The SCTE file is submitted to identify completers of specific CTE pathways. The course pathway code will tie the SCTE file to the CRSC record or to the course section completion record to validate that the CTE students received the correct pathway curriculum. And then last but not least, the work-based learning file over here on the far left may be submitted independently of the other end of year one file types. However, a student enrollment or SENR record at the school of attendance during the academic year reported must exist for the student in order to submit work-based learning data. So that is the suggested sequence for the end of year one file types and a bit of an explanation of the relationships between these file types, which is the reason for the recommended sequencing here. All right, this slide contains the file reporting matrix or the expected school and grade levels tables for the end of year one files. We do have a legend on the bottom right-hand side of the slide here, which really helps to interpret these tables. So if there is a Y in a cell, that would indicate that the file type is required of either the school or the grade level, that schools are expected to submit data and will receive validation errors if the data are not submitted. An end would indicate that schools should not submit this data, that it is neither expected nor required of the schools to submit the data, and a P would indicate that the file types are permitted, that schools are permitted but are not expected to submit data or to submit those records. And if we start at the schools table here at the very top, we see that with regards to traditional schools, all of the end of year one file types are required. They all have a Y in the cell for each of the file types in end of year one, meaning that traditional schools are required to report CRSC, SCSE, STEM, CTE, and work-based learning records in end of year one. If we go just below that, if we look at district level programs, these are independent study, home and hospital programs, we see that all of the end of year one file types are permitted. So schools are permitted to submit them, but they are not expected. So you won't receive those validation errors that indicate missing data at district level programs or for district level enrollments. And this is the case for all file types in end of year one. If we go closer to the bottom here and we look at our non-public school group or our NPS schools, we see that these schools should not submit any of the end of year one data. NPS schools should not submit CRSC, SCSE, STEM, CTE, or work-based learning data in end of year one. So NPS schools are exempt from the end of year one reporting. If we move over to the grade levels table now, we see that for grade levels infant through sixth grade, schools should not report end of year one data. So the course section files are only for departmentalized courses, and the CTE and work-based learning are primarily secondary education considerations or high school considerations. For infant through sixth grade, none of the end of year one file types are required or expected. For grade levels 7 and 8, the end of year one file types are permitted. So schools can but are not required to submit your end of year one file types for grade level 7 and 8. And then for high school or secondary grades 9 through 12, all of the end of year one file types are again required. So we have a yes in each of the columns for grade levels 9 through 12. And then once we get past that and we are teaching adult learners, we do not report any of the end of year one file types for adult learners or adult students. So this table should kind of key us in here to traditional schools with grade 9 through 12 enrollments must submit all of the file types in end of year one. Kind of one key takeaway. All right, this slide contains important reporting reminders that are kind of derived from or implicit in the reporting matrix from the previous slide. So the first reminder is do not report end of year one data for grade levels TK through 8 in self-contained classes. Grades 7 through 8 in departmentalized courses can but are not required to be reported. If you do not report departmentalized courses in grades 7 and 8, you might receive a Cert 99 error. And the Cert 99 is the no student course section data for a primarily enrolled student error. And you should ignore this error if you opted not to report course section data for your middle school or your grade 7 and 8 enrollments. And then the reminder on the bottom of the slide here, you must report end of year one data for grades 9 through 12 in departmentalized courses. And this includes the staff demographic, course section completion, student course section completion, and work-based learning records. It also includes the SCTE record if your LEA has CTE pathway completers in grades 9 through 12. All right, and that concludes our discussion of the data requirements in general. We'll now be moving into the file specific discussions in end of year one. We'll begin with the course completion files. Before we do move into that, are there any questions in chat that we haven't been able to answer, guys?
We're trying. Yeah, we've answered them so far.
All right. Thank you, Kyron. Let's go ahead and move into discussing course completion. So here we will discuss the course section completion and student course section completion records. And LEAs must submit information on courses that students have completed during the year in course section and student course section completion records. Again, mandatory for grades 9 through 12 and optional for grades 7 and 8. Most course completion data is only required for departmentalized classroom settings in grades 9 through 12, attending traditional schools. Grades, credits attempted, and credits earned are all required in grade levels 9 through 12. And if you are submitting this data for grade levels 7 and 8, only grades are required should you decide to report them, but it is optional to report. You must submit student course completion data for all official grading periods for the entirety of the school year. And by submitting course completion data for students in departmentalized courses in grades 9 through 12, LEAs identify CTE participants. This slide contains key fields or attributes to course section completion records, to the CRSC records. And there are 4 key attributes to be mindful of when populating data and reviewing end of year one aggregate reports in CalPads. And they are course content, high quality CTE courses, CTE attributes, and college courses. With regards to course content, state course codes identify CTE course completions, college course completions, and military science course completions. With regards to college courses, there are a subset of college courses that are identified through specific state course codes designating college level courses. And these are course codes in the 9,000 series or 9,000 range. College level courses can also be identified based on the non-standard instructional level of 23, indicating college credit only, and 24, indicating dual credit. If you're reporting a college credit CTE course, you would populate the state course code for the appropriate CTE course and populate the non-standard instructional level with either 23 or 24. And we will go over this scenario of reporting a CTE college level course shortly here. Okay, next is the high quality CTE courses. High quality CTE courses are courses developed with CTE pathway standards. The standards are designed to develop high quality curriculum and instruction that help to ensure students are college and career ready. The standards offer clear guidelines for course content development and expectations for student achievement. The standards are not exclusive to a career pathway, a CTE program of study, a particular discipline, or a level of education. High quality CTE courses must be taught by a credentialed CTE teacher. And then finally, with CTE attributes, students reported to a CTE capstone course who are pathway completers will also be identified as a completer in the 4-year adjusted cohort graduation rate, or ACGR, and will be included in calculations for the college and career indicator on the California School dashboard. Okay, I mentioned that we were going to be discussing the scenario involving reporting courses that are both college level and CTE. That is not the only kind of difficult reporting scenario that often arises. We also have reporting courses that are both CTE and AP or IB, and we'll discuss both of those scenarios in the next few slides here. But now let's dig deeper into college courses. So LEAs should report college courses that students complete with a grade of C- or better, or passing, as it is one of the factors used in determining whether students are prepared for college and career. LEAs should indicate in the course section record, so this is a CRSC record, a course section completion record, and to report college credit courses, LEAs should report course section completion records using the appropriate state course code. So this is a course code for college credit courses in the 9,000 series or 9,000 range. The screenshot on the slide here shows a state course code 9120, which is a college credit English course. So if possible, if we are just reporting a college credit course, we would put the appropriate state course code in the state course code field if the appropriate state course code exists. If the appropriate state course code does not exist, or if this is a college credit and CTE course, we would populate the course instructional level field to indicate college level. So again, the course instructional level code has the options of 23 for college credit only and 24 for dual credit. And if there is not an appropriate state course code for your college credit course, you would indicate that it is college credit by using either code 23 or 24 in the course instructional level field here. If you're reporting a course which is both CTE and college credit, you would report the state course code for the CTE course. And then you would populate the course instructional level code again with either 23 if it's college credit only, or 24 for dual credit. So that is how you report courses which are both CTE and college level, as well as your standard college level courses and college courses for which there are no state course codes. So that is a pretty helpful slide. And this just shows a little bit more information on the state course codes that you can input for college credit courses. So we are showing state course codes in the 9,000 series or 9,000 range that indicate college courses. We have visual arts, dance, theater, English language arts. There are quite a few selections here of college credit course codes. So you are able to use those to indicate college courses. The College and Career Indicator looks in particular at state course codes that are in the 9,000 series or 9,000 range to indicate college level courses. And then again, courses in the 7,000 to 8,999 range to indicate CTE courses. And particularly relevant to the CCI are CRSC records and SCSC records that use state course codes in the 7,000 to 8,999 range, and a course instructional level code of either 23 or 24. Okay, let's talk about those AP and IB courses now. LEAs should use the designated state course codes. Again, in this state course code field here, this is still a course section completion record. And the state course code here is located in the same place here as it was in our college courses slide. LEA should use designated state course code values for advanced placement or AP or international baccalaureate or IB courses. AP courses should have the appropriate state course code selected and aligned with the appropriate content area. IB courses must be reported with the appropriate state course code as well, unless they are middle school IB courses. For middle school IB courses, we would use the course instructional level code to indicate IB. So there is a selection here that indicates IB, similar to the selections that indicate college credit, though there's only one rather than the two that indicate college credit here. So that's how you would report a standard AP or a standard IB course, as well as a middle school IB course. But what about courses that are both CTE and AP or IB? So let's go ahead and look at that scenario now, those CTE and AP or IB courses. Course completion data determines an LEA's CTE participant count using state course codes, again in the 7,000 to 8,999 series. All students completing CTE courses will be counted as CTE participants for federal Perkins reporting purposes. LEAs do not have to submit any additional data for CTE participant counts. CTE courses require the following fields to be populated, and they're the fields highlighted in orange here. So we require the state course code to be populated, and it must be populated with a code in the 7,000 to 8,999 range. CTE courses require the CTE post-secondary articulated course indicator field to be populated. This is used to collect information on whether or not a CTE course has been articulated with a post-secondary institution. They require the CTE course provider code be populated. This is an indication of whether a given CTE course is provided by a regional occupation center or regional occupation program or provided by the district. And they require the high quality CTE course indicator to be populated. Again, this is an indication of whether the course section is taught by a credentialed CTE instructor and developed with CTE pathway curriculum standards. So those are the CTE specific fields. Let's go ahead and talk about this field highlighted in blue or green, teal maybe, on the left-hand side. So previously, LEAs were forced to choose between populating either the CTE state course code or the AP or IB state course code in the course section record. But in current times, LEAs are able to identify a course as both CTE and AP or IB. And the AP-IB course code cross-reference field is what allows for this, as it allows the LEA to populate the state course code field with the CTE course code while providing a cross-reference code to an AP or IB course. The AP-IB cross-reference code is a 4-digit code which references AP or IB courses that an LEA has mapped to a CTE state course code because that course is part of the CTE pathway. Okay, that was the course section completion record. Let's talk about the student course section completion record now and the key fields or key attributes in the student course section completion record. And again, there are 4 key attributes to be mindful of when populating SCSC records and reviewing the associated end of year 1 reports in CalPads. And the attributes to be mindful of, the key fields are grades, credits, Carnegie units, and UC-CSU admissions requirements codes. With regards to grades, grades should be populated with the final grade that a student received after completing a specific course section, and grades are only required for departmentalized courses in grades 7 through 12. LEAs should not submit progress report grades, but only grades earned when credits are awarded. With regards to credits, these are required for grades 9 through 12. LEAs may submit student course completion data either after the completion of an official grading period in which credits are awarded, or at the end of the year when students have completed all courses for the school year. We then have Carnegie units. So in addition to credits earned, student progress and student achievement is derived from these SCSC records via the Carnegie unit. The Carnegie unit is granted to a student completing approximately 120 hours of class in one subject over the course of 1 year. So a total of 120 hours in one subject. This is meeting 4 or 5 times a week for 40 to 60 minutes for 36 to 40 weeks a year. And this will earn the student 1 Carnegie unit of high school credit. 2 semester courses equal 1 year-long course. A year-long course constitutes 1 Carnegie unit. Semester courses constitute 1/2 of a Carnegie unit. Most school districts award 10 local units for each Carnegie unit and 5 local units for a semester course. And then finally is UC CSU admissions requirement codes. These represent the University of California or California State University college admission course requirements that a high school course has been determined to meet. And possible code values describe subject areas. So the coded values describe things like history and social sciences, English, mathematics, a foreign language, visual and performing arts. They were describe subject areas, the UC CSU admissions requirement codes. This is not a required field, but it should be populated for courses that have been approved by UC CSU institutions. And the field is only applicable for departmentalized courses in grades 9 through 12. So those are the key attributes or key fields in the SCSC record. All right, and this is a screenshot of an SCSC record with some key fields highlighted. So please include all student course section records for students enrolled at any time during the current academic year who completed a course and received a grade. And we do have the key fields or attributes highlighted on this slide. Some of them are required and some of them are not required, but they are all noteworthy here. Let's go over the required fields first. So the following fields are required in the SCSC record. The first is the academic term code, and this just represents an academic term. An academic term is the period of time into which an educational institution divides the academic year for the purpose of instruction. We then have student credits attempted, which is the next required field, and this is required for grades 9 through 12, and this is a count of the credits attempted for a specific course section in grades 9 through 12. We then have student credits earned, which is a count of the credits earned after a student completes a specific course section. Again, this is only required in grades 9 through 12. And the student course final grade, which is the final grade that a student received after completing a specific course section. And this is required of grades 7 through 12 if you do report your courses for grades 7 and 8. Only grades are required for student course sections in grades 7 and 8. All right, so let's talk about the non-required fields now. There is the marking period code. That's the first noteworthy non-required field we'll discuss. And this represents the period in which a course mark or in which a grade is given to a student for a particular course. So we have second semester here. We just need to know the term or the period of time that the course mark or the grade was given. We have the UC CSU admissions requirement code. And again, this code represents the category of UC or CSU admissions course requirements that a high school course has been determined to meet. And the coded values here describe subject areas. And finally, the Carnegie unit. The Carnegie unit is not required, but should be populated for students who complete, again, approximately 120 hours of class in one subject over the course of 1 year. And the Carnegie unit equation for a typical LEA is explained on this slide for your reference. So if you're unsure about Carnegie units, this equation on the slide may provide the guidance that you need. All right, that concludes our discussion of the student course section completion file, and with it, our discussion of the course completion reporting in end of year 1. Any questions in chat, guys, before we move on?
I've gotten questions about what files are full replacement, and so I'm posting the link to the user manual where that table is can be found.
Thank you,
Other
Kyron.
than that, yeah.
All right. The user manual is a fantastic resource, so I would like to thank you both for linking to it and for your part in creating it, Kyron. Fantastic resource for the LEAs there. All right, let's go ahead and move into the CTE submission. So the CTE completer information is submitted in end of year 1 using the SCTE file format. So LEAs must submit information on CTE pathways that students have completed during the school year. Students who have completed a CTE pathway during the reporting year are included in the SCTE file submission. If a student's completed more than one pathway, a record is included for each pathway completed this academic year. CTE participants who are non-completers are not included in the SCTE file. The data collected from course sections and student course sections includes the information needed to identify CTE participants. The SCTE file is only submitted for CTE completers. The SCTE file provides us with the CTE completer information, identifying students who have completed a minimum of 300 hours in a state-approved CTE pathway. The SCTE file also indicates the pathway of completers as well as the completer's completion year. The SCTE is a relatively small file, but it does provide key data elements for the California School Dashboard, and it feeds into the post-secondary status submission. There is quite a bit of jargon used to refer to students involved in CTE programs. So we've kind of tried to make the terminology as clear as possible here. We've got a threefold distinction with definitions of each for CTE participants, non-completer participants, and completers listed on this slide here. So a CTE participant is a student who has completed the equivalent of a conventional 50-minute class taken 5 times a week for 180 school days, or approximately 150 hours of instruction in a state-recognized pathway. The CDE will count as a participant any student who has completed a CTE course. So that's participants. And then a subset of those participants, non-completer participants. A non-completer participant is a student who has completed a CTE course who may or may not be participating in a pathway, but who does not meet the definition of a CTE completer. CTE non-completer participation is reported and determined through CRSC and SCSC records, not through the SCTE record. And then CTE completers are identified locally. A CTE completer is a student who has completed a minimum of 300 hours in a state-approved pathway and has successfully passed the capstone course of that pathway with a grade of C- or better. The CDE counts as a completer students that the LEA has identified as a completer by populating field 11.14 in the SCTE record. That field is CTE pathway completion academic year ID, and it must be populated with the current academic year for this year's CTE completers. CalPads will validate whether the students who are identified as CTE pathway completers in the SCTE file have completed the capstone course of that pathway in the student's SCSC records. All right, this slide provides a visual explanation for how CTE participants and pathway completers are reported in CalPads. So let's go ahead and begin by discussing how to report your CTE participants, your non-completer participants. The first step in reporting your CTE non-completer participants is to report course section completion, or CRSC records, for CTE courses with state course codes in the 7,000 to 8,999 range. The course section completion record is tied to a staff member rather than to a student, so you must go on to submit the student course section completion record, or the SCSC record, associated to the CTE course in order to tie the student to the CTE course. If the student is a non-completer participant, do not submit the SCTE record for the student. This is only done for CTE pathway completers. So how do we report our CTE pathway completers? So the first step is similar. So the first step in reporting your CTE pathway completers is to report the capstone course appropriate to the CTE pathway in course section completion records with the appropriate state course code. Capstone courses are the final courses necessary to complete a CTE pathway. And the CRSC record is tied to a staff member rather than to a student. So we'll also need to go on to report the SCSC record associated with the capstone course or the CRSC record in the previous step in order to tie the student to that CTE capstone course. The final step to submit your completer information is to submit the Student Career Technical Education or SCTE record for your completer student, reporting the CTE pathway code, the pathway completion academic year ID, which must be populated with the current academic year. So those are the two key fields for the CTE pathway completion. So that is how you report your CTE participants and your CTE completers. Participants are reported in course section and student course section files, and completers are reported in those plus the SCTE file. All right, a common problem in end of year one reporting is that CTE state course codes are mapped to the incorrect pathway. CTE pathways and state course codes should be mapped so that they align with the content of the curriculum. And the valid code combinations document is vital when mapping your CTE courses. And the course group master combos tab is particularly vital when mapping CTE state course codes to pathways. In the course group master combos tab, you're able to map course group state codes to CTE pathway codes. This tab will allow you to determine whether a course is a concentrator course or a capstone course. And in each CTE pathway, there are state course codes for introduction, concentrator, and capstone courses. On the screenshot on this slide, for the course group master combos tab, it's in the kind of upper right-hand graphic of the slide here. The agriculture or CTE industry sector here. So we have the CTE industry sector name, the agricultural sector, and this includes CTE pathway code 100. CTE pathway code 100 contains state course codes 7110, 7111, and 7112. 7110 is the Introduction to Agricultural Business course. This is the introductory course in the CTE pathway. 7111 is the concentrator course. It is the concentrator course of the pathway, and course code 7112, Advanced Agricultural Business, is the capstone course of CTE Pathway 100. So you can see how this document is used to map courses to pathways and is pretty efficient and effective at doing so. So if you're reporting a student who's completing a pathway, they must complete the capstone course this academic year. So if you're reporting a student who has completed pathway 100, they must complete course with the course code 7112 this academic year. They must complete the capstone course, and this must be reflected in their student course section completion records. You're also able to identify CTE pathways by industry sector in the CTE pathway industry sector tab, and CTE pathways to sub pathways in the CTE pathway CTE sub pathway tab. And this is also incredibly important and helpful when reporting your CTE courses. Okay, this slide shows where in the student course section completion and student career technical education records that you populate or input CTE completer data that we use the valid code combinations document to map. So on the left-hand side here, we have a screenshot of an SCSC record, and towards the middle, kind of lower quadrant of the slide, we have the SCTE file. In the SCSC record for the CTE completer student, you want to ensure that you use the state course code that represents the capstone course for the CTE pathway. In the example on screen, this is course code 7212. which we can see here is Advanced Graphic Design Capstone, and is designated as a capstone course in the valid code combinations document, both by the inclusion of capstone in the course group state name and by the yes in the CTE capstone course indicator field here. So to report your CTE completers, you must use a state course code that represents a capstone course for a CTE pathway. Once the SCSC record has been posted, you'll go on to submit the SCTE record. In the SCTE record, you want to ensure that you populate the correct CTE pathway code, and this is also found in the valid code combinations document, and it's populated with 111 visual, design, visual, and media arts in the example on screen. You'll then want to populate the CTE pathway completion year, which must be populated with the 23 to 24 academic year for this year's CTE completers. This slide shows not quite the same, but similar information on reporting your CTE non-completer participants. So the thing that is similar but not the same is that we do not have an SCTE record. We do not report non-completer participants using SCTE records. We only need to use the SCSC record to report them. So SCSC records for non-completer participants must use CRS state course codes that identify the course as an introduction or concentrator course, and this must be a code that designates a non-capstone CTE course. So in the example on screen here, we have course code 7211, which is Intermediate Graphic Design Concentrator. That's a concentrator course. That is a non-capstone course, and so that identifies the CTE participant. For CTE participation, do not use the capstone course. CTE completion is captured with the capstone course of the pathway. Thank you, sir. Let's go ahead and jump into our discussion of the work-based learning or WBLR file. LEAs must submit work-based learning records in end of year 1 for students in grades 9 through 12 to measure their preparedness for college and career. This data feeds directly into the college and career indicator on the California School dashboard. And there are 12 work-based learning programs and activities that LEAs should track and report to CalPads in the work-based learning file. These are very specific and they're defined in the CalPads code sets document, and we'll cover the 12 programs in a couple of slides. The work-based learning file uses replacement processing with the operational keys of academic year and school of attendance in batch processing. All right, LEAs must submit work-based learning or WBLR records to CalPads for all students in grades 9 through 12 who participate in an internship or other work-based learning program while enrolled at the LEA. This includes completion of any work-based learning for students enrolled at the LEA at any time during the reporting year. Work-based learning data is found in the local SIS and gathered by a team of CTE, special education, and CalPads coordinators. Though you'll commonly find work-based learning data within CTE and special education, it is not exclusive to these two areas, and students can be in work-based learning programs with any measure of curriculum throughout your schools. Because of this, it's important to have a process in place for identifying and reporting work-based learning programs. LEA administrators will need to assign the work-based learning edit, view, and extract roles to their accounts and other user accounts working with the work-based learning file. And SELPAs will need to request the state to add the work-based learning extract role to their account. And it is noteworthy that SELPAs will need to request this role from the state rather than from the LEA admin. We do have some references available for you that are kind of mentioned at the bottom of this slide. If you did download the slide deck, the links to these reference materials are included in the notes section. CalPads Flash number 184 and 229 speak directly to work-based learning and are still relevant in the 23 to 24 academic year in EOY 1. We then have the work-based learning data population training video recording on the CSIS YouTube training channel, which goes over all of the fields and file specifications for the work-based learning file format, and the CalPads user manual, which has a page dedicated to the work-based learning file, which again goes in a pretty high level of detail with regards to the specifications for WBLR and guidance for submitting WBLR records. WBLR field number 21.09, work-based learning type code, is a coded value representing the work-based learning that a student has completed during the academic year in any grades 9 through 12. These codes are again defined in the CalPADS code sets, and they represent internships, student-led enterprise, virtual or simulated work-based learning, registered and non-registered pre-apprenticeship programs, the Job Corps, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, Youth Build, the California Conservation Corps, transitional work-based experience, and transitional classroom-based work exploration. LEA should report the work-based learning in the year that it was completed. A single student may have more than one work-based learning activity reported for the academic year. Report summer work-based learning for grades 9 through 12. However, do not include summer internships that occurred after a student has graduated. The work-based learning code will dictate the other fields that need to be populated in the WBLR record. And work-based learning type code 30 is in italics on this graphic on the slide here. And that's because work-based learning type code 30, non-registered pre-apprenticeship program, is planned to be retired in the 24 to 25 academic year. And we will have more information on a couple of changes to the WBLR file coming up shortly here. This slide contains a screenshot of the work-based learning file or of the work-based learning record here. The work-based learning file features student demographic and enrollment data for identification and verification purposes, but there are 7 fields of data that are specific to work-based learning. We have the work-based learning type code. Again, this is a coded value representing the work-based learning that the student completed during the academic year in any grades 9 through 12, and this is populated with one of the 12 work-based learning type codes. There will be 11 next academic year. We then have Internship ID. This is a unique identifier for an internship work-based learning activity. We have work-based learning hours external. This is the count of hours that the student spent outside of school in a work-based learning activity in the academic year reported. This field is only populated for work-based learning type codes 10 internship, 15 student-led enterprise, and 20 virtual or simulated work-based learning. While the hours here are spent outside of the classroom, the work-based learning activity is tied to the internship, the student-led enterprise, or the work-based learning activity. We then have state course code embedded work-based learning. This is the state course code that the student completes or completed in which the student-led enterprise or simulated work-based learning was embedded. This state course code embedded work-based learning will be required for work-based learning type code 10 internship next academic year in the 24 to 25 academic year. We then have internship employer performance evaluation code. This is a coded value representing the student's performance in the internship as evaluated by their performance or by their employment supervisor. We have the internship certificated supervisor indicator, which indicates whether the internship was part of a program supervised by a certificated staff member of the school, the district, or the county. A Y would indicate that the internship was part of a program supervised by the credentialed staff member or the certificated staff member, and an N would indicate that it is not. We then have the internship LEA sponsored indicator, which indicates whether the school, district, or county played a direct role in securing the internship for the student. A Y would indicate that the school district or county did play a direct role, and an N would indicate that it did not. So those are the somewhat exhaustively all of the key fields that are unique to WBLR records. Okay, there are 2 noteworthy changes to talk about. One of them is currently in place in the 23 to 24 academic year, and one of them is an upcoming change for the 24 to 25 academic year that we want to get on your radar as early as we can. So let's begin at the top here with the change that is currently in place with the employer performance evaluation code. So LEAs populate field number 2113, internship employer performance evaluation code, in the work-based learning file with codes in the internship employer performance evaluation code set. Previously, there were 4 codes in this code set, and they included 1 does not meet expectations, 2 partially meets expectations, 3 meets expectations, and 4 above expectations. A 5th code, not provided by employer, has been added in the 23 to 24 academic year and is defined as the student did not receive a rating because the employer either 1, failed to provide an evaluation, or 2, did not evaluate the student's performance on the internship. So that change is currently in effect. You are now able to use code 5 in the employer performance evaluation code field. This change on the bottom quadrant of the slide is not currently in effect. It is upcoming for the 24 to 25 academic year. And it is regarding the work-based learning type code 30. So the State Board of Education, the California State Board of Education, removed the work-based learning type code 30 non-registered pre-apprenticeship program from use in the college and career indicator at their September 2023 meeting. Therefore, the work-based learning type code 30 non-registered pre-apprenticeship program is being retired beginning in academic year 24 to 25. LEAs may continue to submit this work-based learning type in 23 to 24, but it will not be used in CCI calculations. And beginning in the 24 to 25 academic year, if this code is included in the work-based learning file, the file will fail on upload. So those are some noteworthy changes in EOY 1. Our noteworthy changes are almost exclusively regarding work-based learning records. There was some updated guidance on the CCI in general, but the work-based learning file really had the big changes with these 2 changes here. We've now completed our discussion of the file types involved in end of year 1, and this slide contains the end of year 1 checklist. This is different from the submission checklist. This is specific to end of year 1, and it shows the priority of the data that will need to be populated and reported prior to looking at certification errors. So please do download this slide deck. You can pop this slide out, have it handy as you're preparing for and doing the initial steps of end of year 1 reporting. With that, though, I'm going to go ahead and send it over to my main man, Kyron Pagulayan, to go over certification.